Docs, Jill Allen here. I am so excited to bring you another episode on my Hey Docs podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe on your favorite listening platforms or join us on our YouTube channel to watch the episodes. Today, I have two amazing guests on the show, Dr. Clarke Stevens and Dr. Davin Bickford from WildSmiles Braces. Dr. Clarke Stevens is a board-certified orthodontist and the founder of WildSmiles Braces and has practiced in the Omaha area for many years now. Davin serves as the COO for WildSmiles and, like Dr. Stevens, has a passion for helping patients have fun while wearing braces. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Clarke Stevens and Davin Bickford. All right, everybody. I am super excited, like I just said, to have Dr. Clarke Stevens on and Davin Bickford from WildSmiles Braces. And, as we get started on this podcast, I just want to thank you guys for being a part of this. I'm super excited about where we're going with Hey Docs and just really being able to give our startup doctors, our doctors that are doing acquisitions, and just our docs that have been out there doing this for a while, some good information, on what is new, what is going on out there in our industry. Dr. Stevens, if you don't mind, I really want to just start with you, and I want you to just kind of give me the backstory. It's always fun to see doctors that have been in our industry and just doing such a great job, and then have them go, you know what? I think there's something that I can do better, and I can add something to our industry that maybe somebody else hasn't thought of. So do you mind just kind of giving us a little bit of the backstory of how WildSmiles came to fruition and what took you to where we're at now?
Okay, I'd be happy to talk about it. It's going to go a long way back. It's going to go back to my teenage years. I discovered I was a creative guy as a teenager. I started making sculptures and selling them in art shows and stuff through high school and college. And then I went into dental school after a couple of years of college. And I really didn't know very much who I was. I knew I was kind of creative. So then when I went to orthodontics in North Carolina, I sort of grew up, I would say. And one of the things I noticed about the orthodontic clinic, we had 15 residents. And it's just a big clinic, and it was orange and just very generic. And I didn't think that seemed like very much fun. And one of my classmates was going to go practice somewhere else. And he had the Sears catalog out, and he was looking at furniture from the Sears catalog and how he was going to do his office. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm going to have a more fun office than that. So I told everybody in my class I was going to start a disco ortho office, because disco was big in the 80s. So yeah. That was my goal. And my first office was really creative. I had gone to Dallas for a meeting. Actually, I dated a girl down there, and we went to this Lowe's Anatole Hotel, and one of the shops in there had concrete floors, which back then was really weird. Now it's very common. So I thought, I want black concrete floors in my office. I don't want a ceiling. I want neon lights and a jukebox. So I did all of that, and my practice was really fun. So really the idea of WildSmiles kind of generated from that whole disco ortho thought, that I just wanted to be a fun place for people to come, patients and parents. And so I just have been always really creative about that. And one day I had a little girl come in. She was 9 years old. She had braces on, and she also had a little necklace that had a sort of a cubic shaped heart on it. The chain went right through the middle of the cube of the heart. And so it sort of looked like a wire going through the middle of a bracket or heart shaped bracket. I thought, that could be a bracket. And so when I thought of that, I asked this little girl what she thought if we had brackets the shape of a heart. She said that'd be fun. So that was my whole beginning of WildSmiles. So
yeah, that's great. And it's isn't it interesting to see like the inspirations that take, from, I just want to have a fun office to what we see on, a little necklace, and then how that, worked with you to go, you know what? This could work. Like I could make something like that work, and how wonderful. And I think you're right on. And even then, there used to be this big stigma, right, around kids and braces, kind of like kids and glasses. And now it's, what does every kid want? Braces and glasses. It's the craziest thing, but it's also because it's cool and it makes them feel unique. And there's conversation starters a lot of times with that. So I just really love that you saw that, had inspiration from that, and then brought that into fruition with WildSmiles.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got to know, Davin, how did you get into this? Because like how did you become, I think most of us know you, the face and the voice of WildSmiles. So, kind of, tell me how you guys came to working together.
Yeah. Well, the short answer is I always tell people, well, Jesus must have brought me to Omaha because I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to school in Texas for college, and was involved in a leadership conference out in Washington, D.C. that Dr. Stevens was kind of a leader in. And I was put into a small group. Mm-hmm. And we just hit it off. Our personalities kind of meshed. And so after that first year of being there, I ended up in Omaha probably 2 or 3 months later, because I went to a football game down in Lincoln, and, growing up in Oklahoma, going to Texas to school, and then getting the chance to go to, Nebraska for a football game was kind of a big deal. And so I thought, well, the only guy I know in Nebraska is this guy I just met a couple months ago. So I called him up, and we met up at the game. And then kind of fast forward a year, I went back to that leadership conference, and I wasn't in his small group that year, but I was still, it was my senior year, and he kind of introduced me to this idea of WildSmiles. And then he had kind of gotten it going and was trying to figure out where it was in the market, and was looking for somebody to come in and help him with that. And so that's how I got involved.
I love it. And you know what? And I've had a great opportunity to get to know you guys over the past few years here. And I love the story, but I also really love where WildSmiles kind of fits into our industry. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because I do have a lot of listeners out there that are young doctors, again, doctors that are doing acquisitions, or just doctors in general that are looking for just something to do different, a different positioning, space for them in our industry. And what I love about WildSmiles is, as I've been working with a lot of, startups over the last 17 years, I have really started to see this shift in the way we do, even choosing our brackets. When I first got started, it was all about grad orders and big, basic, twin bracket orders. And, it was just kind of the way it goes. And, we've seen a shift in brackets as we've been going along. But what I've really found is now, especially, my docs are coming and saying, Jill, we're kind of picking our modalities right from the beginning. We're introducing our digital systems and our custom brackets. And what I have really loved about WildSmiles is it has perfectly, in my opinion, I don't know if this is the way you guys meant it to go, but I think it meets that niche that we're looking for how do we stand out, especially with early phase treatment. And I know we don't have to just use it for that. I know, Dr. Stevens, you even have adults that will choose this system, but I love it because it's bigger than just a colored O-tie. Like, we all knew that was a big deal in, back 80s, 90s, right? Colored O-ties, we progressed from the wire. If you can remember, or I know you remember this, but I used to do, the wire tie pencils. I was a master at that, way, way, way back when. But, when we moved to those colored O-ties, but we never really moved past colored O-ties. And I think that's that has been just so much fun for me to see, is the excitement that kids are getting. So can you guys kind of talk to me a little bit about that, and, kind of how you guys are seeing this fit this market, and what doctors are asking for, and a little bit about what actually is WildSmiles. And, I know we're beyond heart brackets. So let's just kind of talk a little bit about that, and how you guys are kind of positioning and helping doctors position that within their practice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Davin go first, and then I'll kind of follow up.
Okay, great. Davin, it's all you.
All right. Yeah. So, so I think when we talk about the custom brackets, right? So we've kind of been talking about this custom braces experience for a lot of years. And here we are, and there's kind of a difference, I would say, and how do we define custom? So from a doctor's perspective and a clinical perspective, right? We have this idea that custom is printed, and custom is your own prescription, and custom is all these clinical aspects, which certainly, no argument, that's definitely custom. But when we think about it from the experience of the patient, custom to, a 9-year-old or a 14-year-old or even a 37-year-old who's coming in for braces, custom is designing and creating your own unique braces experience.
I love that. I really, really love that. That's exactly it. And thank you for differentiating that, because that is a key thing there.
And I think both can be true at the same time, right? They're not in tension with each other. It's that the market sees custom one way, and then the doctor also sees custom another way. And you can use both of them for your practice, to have efficient systems, and then also to have just a fun practice. And so really that's where we fit in, I think, on the custom conversation. And then that's how we've developed, like you said, beyond heart braces. That's how we got into the college. That's how we got into Disney, because we're looking at how can we change almost nothing for the doctor on the delivery side and the inventory side and all the things that doctors care about, but change so much on the experience side for the patient.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed in consultations, and even just playing golf even one time, oftentimes I'll tell people about WildSmiles, and they go, gee, when I was a kid, they didn't have anything like that. And that would be so great to do that. And they say, oh boy, orthodontics has really progressed. So they understand that as a big progression, is that, I can understand changing the shape of the brackets, but they don't really get into prescriptions and all that, but they understand that this is really something unique, something they didn't have. So this is new and fresh for them, because they hadn't been experienced, they hadn't had experience as a kid. So that's really a fun thing. And then another thing, oftentimes you'll get a young kid to come in, and depends on their age, but usually when they're 8 or 9, they're a little bit worried, but even early teenagers are, they're just scared about the experience. And then when they get into the office and the treatment coordinator or I share with them what the options are, they'll just key into that, oh boy, I could have, like in Nebraska, we do Husker braces. Some kids, like I have a kid now that's been on observation for a couple of years. He cannot wait to get his Husker braces on. So they're not going to go anywhere else, because they know they can come here for Husker braces. So it's a really fun thing. And parents also, when they sometimes latch onto it and think, oh, wow, this is great. I love Disney. My kid loves Disney. The kid may not pick Disney, but they may pick another shape bracket, but they really understand that whole thing when you have a lot of options.
Yeah. And I'm going to take us down just a little bit of a rabbit hole off of what you just said, but I love the idea of incorporating this into our OBS programs, because we all know, I always tell my docs, and, every patient on our OBS program is like $5,000 in a savings account. And the key is keeping them in your practice till they're ready to start. And I love the idea of leveraging this, that when you're ready, like your young boy that you're talking about, that every month is I'm sure every 6 months he comes in. Is this the time? Is this the time? Am I ready to get those Husker braces? And I just think, gosh, docs, anybody who's listening out there, this could be that pivotal thing that you're looking for, again, to take your ops program to that next level. Maybe it's showing them, what it is. And I know, Davin, you can talk to us a little bit about how we can kind of leverage WildSmiles with marketing, but I've got to assume that you guys have even got some tips and tricks for us. And maybe we can just kind of dovetail into that just a little bit. But I don't know why, it never even dawned on me to think about this as a way to be using it in our ops program. And I think it's genius because it's way bigger than, again, just, I'm going to get purple or pink, or I get to choose Halloween colors when I get started. I mean, this is really a big deal for kids and them kind of having that, being able to set their style, I guess, within the bracket community.
Yeah, we document that on our records so that we know that they like the Hearts or the Huskers or whatever they like, so that we can have a conversation with them about when they come in. So it's really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing with WildSmiles is getting engagement from the consumer, from the patient, from the potential patient. And so, we have a lot of tools that practices can use to build out engagement in the ops program, like our Design Your Smile feature, where, they can actually create a postcard, for example, or an email that they might get. And it might say, hey, your next appointment's coming up. Here are some of the fun styles that you'll get to choose from on your next visit, and then introduce them to the smile selector. And then they might even come in with a smile already designed and ready to go. And what I tell all of our practices, whether that's in an ops program or whether that's just in the waiting room before the new patient appointment, and you're allowing them to look through the styles, do you think a patient that goes into the new patient appointment with a style of bracket already picked out is going to go anywhere else?
Right.
They're engaged. They're there. They're in it.
Yep. I love this. And again, I just think, it's just taking us to that next level. We're always looking for what are we doing differently, or what can we do differently as providers? And I just think this is that next level of helping kids really be engaged. And again, we know there are adults. I mean, there are adults that love Disney, and they wouldn't want anything else but a Disney bracket on there. But I think that especially for that younger generation, I think that is really great. Now, I want to just kind of dive into a little bit. How in the world did you guys get to be able to do Disney? Because I mean, just let's talk a little bit about that and how you guys were able to get that incorporated, and then how practices can incorporate that, because that's a big deal, especially certain areas of the United States. But I think just overall, I mean, who doesn't love Disney?
Yeah, let me just add in here before I'm going to let Dr. Stevens take this one, but I was cautiously optimistic. Let's just put it that way.
Well, one thing about the Disney thing that is kind of brought to the table is it takes the shape brackets to a little bit another level, because they realize, Disney is a really excellent organization, and there's a lot of parameters around them choosing you. You have to be the right company, and they have to like you and all of that stuff. So it really kind of, I think it's better than an ADA approval. So it's a really good thing. So, well, what happened is I did have a patient who was an adult patient, and she went every month to Disney. And so when she got her braces on, she had hearts, flowers, and stars. She wanted to kind of bling it up as much as she could. Sure. And so it made me think, well, a Disney shape would be really nice. So then I filed for the patent and got the patent on the Disney shape. But then I knew that without Mickey signing on to it, there's no way I could produce it, because they would stop me. And so then I did everything to try to get Disney excited about it. I wrote every place, I tried to find their attorneys. We had our patent attorney look for them. We could not get on it. But I went to junior high and grade school with Susie Buffett, who's Warren Buffett's daughter. And so I know her a little bit. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to get a hold of Susie and find out if she knows anybody at Disney, because her dad owned a major part of Disney at one time. And so she got back to me and she said, well, there is a gal from Omaha that I know that is on the Disney board and she might be able to help. And so she told me her name. Her name's Patty. And I said, oh, that's funny. I know Patty. She's 10 years older than me. She's the same age as my brother. And my brother dated her in high school.
Oh,
and
small world.
I would go with them to hit golf balls. My brother would hit golf balls. She would. And so I do that. And then she got out of college. They weren't dating or anything. And then I came home from college and she was working in Omaha and she was outfitting her apartment. And my mom sold furniture in our yard, in the back of our yard and some buildings. And she was on top of her car because our dog was at the bottom of her car barking at her and she was scared. So
you had a Cujo moment with her, huh?
So we had that, life memory together. So that was pretty funny. So she got on board with checking for me. And in a matter of a couple months, we were on a path to being investigated and approved by Disney. So it's sometimes who you know. So
I love it. Well, number one, that's just a little pearl for everybody. Sometimes it really is who you know that helps you get to where you want to go. But I love that. And I do agree with you. I mean, it is a huge stamp of approval to have Disney back you guys in that regard. And I even know that you guys actually have to do some very specific training. You want to talk just a little bit about that? Because I think this kind of is just like, some of us have had the opportunity to go to some of the courses that Disney puts on as far as engagement and just, level of service. And so, of course, they're going to expect a level of service that you're delivering. So you guys want to talk? I don't know which one of you wants to take that, but just talk maybe a little bit about that and what a practice, kind of that value add that a practice is going to get in some of that Disney training that comes along with the bracket system?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, partnering with Disney fits right in with what we've been talking about in terms of experience and this braces experience that the consumer needs and should have. So Disney just fits right in with that naturally for us. And so when we brought in Disney and got the licensing and started the product and all that, we also added kind of this implementation training for all of our clients. And we actually had a lot of our current providers, not even new providers, but doctors that have been providing WildSmiles for years, had their team go through the training. And so really what that looks like is we bring in some of the aspects of the Disney culture and talk about that in the training, but then tie all of those aspects into, what this means for the orthodontic practice. We also have the ability to pass on the Disney branding to the clients that use Disney. So they can actually connect their practice brand with the WildSmiles brand and ultimately the actual Disney brand. So some of the training also goes into what assets and tools we have available, and then how to integrate that. And it's really not, it's not like we're going through and listing off all the rules. It's really what kind of experience do you want to create? And then how do you leverage what we're providing you as a client into this overall experience? And so it's almost like a team training day that's really fun, kind of a team bonding.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-hour deal. We bring in lunch. We get the whole team involved, and doctors love it because, I always say integrating WildSmiles is not rocket science. It's very simple.
I love it. And we're looking for simplicity.
Right. But it is something new. And anytime there's something new, there's questions, there's hesitations, there's how is this actually going to work? And so getting everybody in the same room for a 2-hour period and making it a fun time really brings everybody on board. And we see, and we've measured this since we started doing this, the practices that go through the training and then implement WildSmiles are significantly more successful, not only with WildSmiles, but with creating this experience than practices who don't go through training.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, I had a thought. in the beginning of it, I toured their facility in Burbank, and they went through all their branding of that. It's quite an interesting place. And we sat down in a boardroom, we talked about what they expected. Of course, they expect a monetary return, but they also expect Disney to be, Mickey to be portrayed in certain ways. They have all kinds of things requirements that we have to adhere to, or they won't approve our final product. But they want that Disney experience to be wonderful. So they look at this whole braces thing as an experience for Disney fans. And so they want to make sure that's right. And they were quite eager to do something in the healthcare arena, because they generally avoid it, because they don't want anything negative associated with Mickey. So there's no blood, there's no gore, but a positive experience in orthodontics. So they were excited about the idea of actually getting into the healthcare area without compromising Mickey. So it's been a fun thing, learning how that they market their stuff and how it fits in with the orthodontic experience.
Yeah, I love it. I just think, not only is it just about these really fun brackets, but then bringing the Disney component into it. I mean, good job. I mean, I think it's exactly what our industry needed. And, yes, it isn't custom from the sense of, torque of bracket and all of that, but it is sure custom to a patient getting to customize their experience as they're going through treatment. I love it.
And I do want to say one thing, just kind of since you brought it up, we often get a lot of questions about on the clinical side, on the prescription and slot size. And there's a lot of questions around what that looks like. And so just real quickly, we do make them in different prescriptions and slot sizes. So it's not a one size fits all. So basically the practice tells us what prescription and slot size, and then that's the bracket that they are provided, just with a shaped pad. So, we do offer this ability for it to work in any clinical scenario.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I'm just going to talk about something I've heard, because I've had doctors ask me, well, what about hygiene? If I take off their braces, are they going to have a heart left on there? And I know you guys have been doing some studies about hygiene and almost the exact opposite of what's going on. Let's just dive into that, and then we'll kind of wrap up with a few kind of marketing questions. But I just think because that's something I hear a lot about. You want to take that for me?
So we call that. We now have a campaign around oral hygiene called "Can You See the Shape?" And so we've heard those same questions a lot. And a few years ago, one of our providers kind of brought to our attention, hey, I see almost no decalcification with WildSmiles. And in fact, I think he said he hadn't seen any. And that was true to our experience with other providers as well. We have almost no, occurrences of decalcification. And he said, I think you guys should look at, using the shape as a hygiene tool and an encouragement. And so as we kind of fleshed it out, one thing we've known for a long time is that the fact that our bracket has a pad that's larger so that the shape can be seen, that actually extends beyond the tie wings. So any plaque or anything that would get caught up under the tie wing is actually sitting on the pad surface, number one. And then when you talk to the patient and you say, hey, you need to brush better, you tell any kid they need to brush better, and they don't really know what that means.
Yeah. How do you quantify that? What does that really mean to them?
Exactly. They don't know. And so, and honestly, a lot of parents don't know either. Like, what am I supposed to be looking for? So then if you tell them, well, you've got a heart or a Mickey or a football, and every night before you go to bed, you need to brush until you can see that shape. And so that gives the kid a goal to work for that they can understand and quantify. It also gives the parent something that they can use to really measure in a real way. And then with that, we've seen great great outcomes with oral hygiene and WildSmiles patients.
I love it. Just one more, like, so simple, but yet it makes so much sense, and it's easy. It's easy to quantify. A child can walk up, mom and dad can look really quickly. Oh, I can't see your heart back on that back tooth back there. Head back in and brush real quick. I mean, how easy? So much better than chew on a horrible pink tablet that tastes awful and stains everything in your life, right?
Right.
Like, how much better is that? I love it, guys. This is just, I know people are just eating this information up. And I think that this is, I know you guys have been around for a while, but I really think bringing light to how important this is for everything else is, just really going to help a lot of practices out there. So as we kind of finish up, I want to just give our audience, 2 or 3 just kind of good, marketing little tidbits that you guys think if somebody were going to, either if you were going to implement this into your office, maybe a little tidbit there, or if you're going to market, here's a couple things that we've really seen that are really helping, something like that. And again, I'll let whoever wants to take it go.
Well, from a marketing perspective, in today's economy, and I would say it's also been true for a long time, but it hasn't really made it into healthcare. But experience is where we're competing. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at, in healthcare in general, hospitals and all of this, they're making huge investments in patient experience. And so when we look at our practices, we're competing on experience because to some level, the consumer just thinks, well, orthodontics is orthodontics.
Yeah,
it's how do I, right. Braces are braces. Mm-hmm. So how do I set myself apart? Or even if it's not setting yourself apart, even if it's just, how do I offer something that creates a better experience?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why we're a huge proponent of practices offering all the choices, of which WildSmiles is one, because you have so many different kinds of patients that are coming in and they're all going to respond to these different modalities in a different way. And WildSmiles, I don't think we've said it yet, but WildSmiles in our practices, 70% of early treatment patients choose WildSmiles and they self-select them. And in the just overall practice numbers, it's about 30% that'll choose WildSmiles. So I guess my tip would just be what we're competing on is experience in orthodontic practices right now. And so WildSmiles is certainly a part of creating that experience.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I think one of the things too with that experience that we see has changed in our culture in my lifetime is that there's less emphasis on customer service and caring about people. I don't know where it started, probably with McDonald's, the drive-through, you just get your stuff and you go. And people are used to they go to the bank teller. They don't go to a bank person anymore. They just go to the automatic teller. And they don't mind switching banks. They don't mind switching restaurants if it's not pleasing them. Because they don't have a relationship. And I think that WildSmiles helps begin that relationship with an experience that, oh gosh, these people care about me. And I think that's what's really important is for them to know they're cared about. Mm-hmm. And I think that one thing I was thinking about, I'm been in practice a long time. And I told you in the 80s with Ronald Reagan was president then. And when he was at the end of his last term, he gave a speech. And one of the things he said, I need to warn you that within a generation, we can lose this democracy if we don't take care of it. And I think in the orthodontic practice, that generation is just 2 years. Yeah. My practice can be dead 2 years from now if I'm not taking care of them because they cycle through in a 2-year time. So I have to be current. I have to be with it. I have to be like the young startup doctors. I can't be an old curmudgeon guy. So I think I have to offer the best, the newest, the greatest stuff out there, or it's going to expire.
Yeah, such sage advice. That is right on. I completely agree with you. And thanks for sharing that, because I think that is exactly it. It is, we have got to stay on top of it. And gone are the days, I think a lot of times of the generational practices where it's just, we're just family members. There's a lot of choices out there. And so we've got to stay in front of that with our patients. So that's wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun, amazing information. And I know that, people are going to be calling saying, okay, I got to get WildSmiles into my practice because this could be that little game changer that I was looking to do. And it doesn't disrupt a lot of systems, which is easy. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Let's have fun. Let's make it easy. So as we finish up, one of the things that I like to do is kind of do a little speed round. And what I'll do is maybe I'll just ask each of you a question, and, maybe Davin will start with you and then Clarke, and we'll just kind of go back and forth until we finish it up. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the challenge?
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Davin, describe your style in one word.
Classic.
I like that. Okay. All right, Clarke, what are you listening to or watching right now?
Well, I'm reading a book called The Cost of Discipleship. I've been kind of going through this by Dietrich Bonhoeffer in the 1930s. It's kind of changed the way I look at life and serving people and things like that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, Davin, what do you do that is just for you? If you're going to just take time just for you, what do you do?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Because I don't do that as much as I should, right? I think the thing that I do that's just for me is I love to run. I love to get out there outside by myself, put in a podcast, and just go for a long run. So that would be the thing that I probably do just for me.
I love that. I love that. I'm a walker and a podcaster or an audiobooker, and that is my creative time. So I totally connect with that. Okay, Dr. Stevens, what is your hidden talent? I think I may know it, but I'm curious to know.
Well, so since you're saying hidden talent, I think that, one thing, doctors kind of have this persona as kind of being stiff and stuff like that a lot of times. And they don't really get to know you very well, people. And I think, we have a lot of nice things around us. So I think one hidden talent I have is to be able to really care for people and to come alongside them and give them help. And I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right. And I'm going to finish up. This question is going to be for each of you. So Davin, I'll start with you, and then Clarke will finish up with you. So what is your big, hairy, audacious goal for 2022? Or we can say even for 23, because we're about halfway through 22.
Yeah, well, I think as I think about this, I think I might need till 2024 or longer. So I'm the only guy in my house. I got girls, and our dog is a girl. I mean, I'm all around girls. So a goal would be to get those girls in an RV and travel around the country for, a couple weeks or a month. So getting them out into nature, that'd be, sometimes my oldest daughter's idea of camping is a Holiday Inn Express. So glamping on wheels. That's what we're going for. That's
right?
what we're going for. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it. And Clarke, how about you? What is your big, hairy, audacious goal for 2022 or 2023?
To just change up my professional life in Omaha. I want to build an apartment complex and maybe move my office. So there's kind of a lot of business redevelopment stuff going on. So I'm excited about doing that because that creative side likes to do something.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of Hey Docs. And again, this has been great information. If somebody wanted to reach out, find out more, Davin, where would be a good place for them to reach out at?
Yeah, so on our website, there's an easy form that they can fill out. And so that's just wildsmilesbraces.com/doctors. And there's a quick form there. I don't really often do this, but since it's you, Jill, and we appreciate you having us on, they can also just call or text me. And that's 402-677-3311. So,
whoa, we got the goods. We got the goods, everybody.
That's because it's you, Jill. We appreciate you. And this is a lot of fun.
Yep, absolutely. Well, again, thank you guys both. Dr. Stevens, thank you for bringing this to our industry. I think this is exactly, something we needed. And so I'm glad we got to talk about this.
Well, thank you, Jill. You are truly an inspirational person. You're so optimistic and you're just great for orthodontics. You fit right in perfectly. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to join this with you.
Yep. All right. Okay. Well, until next time.